are back again with another video. So guys, in today's video, if you have watched my previous video, and the reason I didn't do a color correction, I didn't do color correction in this specific video is because I did the same in my previous video. And if you haven't watched my previous video, be patient, I'll be uploading a studio color correction video. But in today's tutorial, I just to show you how I normally retouch my full body images for my clients, not like retouching for magazine or anything, just how I edit, because normally I deal with clients, I do personal shoots, birthdays and everything, and I normally do I just want to show you how I normally touch my images, because yeah, that's just what I do. So the first thing I do, I crop my images to the Instagram size. So the Instagram size is 4x5 or 8x10. So I'll just go ahead and crop this to the Instagram size, and I'll just go ahead and say okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, I need to retouch the skin, and we do that using frequency separation. So I'll Control J twice. Let's call this texture, and let's call this color. Don't worry about my spelling, I'm just writing it as fast as possible. Color, and let's call this texture. Okay, now let's disable the texture layer, then select the color layer, and then go to filter, then noise, and then dust and scratches. And because these are full image, I tend to use the radius of 4 or 5. So let's say 4 and say okay. And come right here up and select, go to image, then apply image. Make sure you select the color layer and select a blending mode of subtract, and make sure scale is 2, offset of 128, and opacity of 100, and then say okay, and change the blending mode height here to linear light. And let's create a black and white layer on top right here, and I'll just go ahead and zoom in my image to like 50%, and let's start retouching. I'll go ahead and pick my mixer brush tool. Make sure wetness is at 10, load 75, mix 90, and flow of 100, and make sure some ball layers not selected, and make sure it's a clean brush. And let me zoom in once more to maybe 66. And then if you want to rotate your images for better retouching, you can always press R in your keyboard to get perfect angles for retouching. And also you can also go ahead and disable the texture layer, because you're only retouching on the color layer. And then I go ahead and start brushing. And let's say, for example, you press R and you move away from the mixer brush. Always come back and press B in your keyboard, and you'll always go back to your previous brush. So that's the mixer brush. I've disabled the texture layer because we're only working with blending the colors, so we need to get as much texture remaining as possible. So the more plastic it looks, the more retouched it will be. So yeah. And the reason most of my tutorials, I don't retouch all headshots. I try to mix both, because I'm doing this tutorial for people who mostly shoot for clients who don't shoot for big brands. But the goal is to grow up, to grow as much as possible, and work with big brands. So it's just the same way you want to make your work stand out and reach to as many people as possible. So always come back and enable the texture layer, because you want to see how much you have done. And if I can put the texture and the color on one group and show you how much you have done, you can see the before and after. You can see how much texture we're remaining with on the model's face. So that's the good thing. So let me put back the black and white and disable the texture layer again, and continue brushing. Don't overstroke, but it depends on how sharp your images. So yeah. Always enable the texture layer, because you want to see the results as much as possible. You want to you don't want to over edit, you don't want to over brush, so you need to be very careful with the retouching, with the brushing and everything. Always come back and enable the texture layer. I need to rotate to retouch the hands because I just want to make the skin be as flawless as possible and as flowing as possible. So let's come here, and this is looking really nice. As I said, if you want to know how I color correct my images, watch my previous video and you learn a very quick tip and a very quick trick there. So yeah, always go ahead and disable the black and white, because you need to see how your image is looking. So let's continue brushing. You can see how our image is coming up. So the goal is to use as low time as possible, or you don't want to use as much time as possible, but you want to come out with amazing results. So that's why we use this method for retouching. You can see how the image is looking. You have the texture. The texture is the most important. The goal is not to smoothen your image. The goal is to remain with enough texture and the model have a nice flawless skin. That's the important thing. So I need to rotate my image back because I need to retouch this other hand. So pick your mixer brush, disable the texture layer, and keep on brushing. Perfectly. You can see the results are coming. Let's disable the black and white right here, because we want to see how everything is looking. And here, as you saw, I didn't even remove the blemishes because I do that immediately after I'm done with the frequency separation. Let's retouch this part, the model's hand right here. And also, as I said from my previous video, I don't really even skin tones to every single image, because when you color correct your images perfectly, I think the model skin tones always look nice. So you don't want to always painting your images with colors and try to perfect the skin tone. Yeah, you don't have to do that all your images. Just need to perfect your shooting, your lighting and everything, and you get a nice skin tones. So yeah, you can see, let me zoom out slightly and let's enable the texture again back, and let's put this in a straight line, right? You can see how our image is looking, and we are actually done with the frequency separation. If I can put all this in a group and see before and after, you can see the difference is really massive. So what we need to do now is just go ahead and brush slightly on the dress to just make it seamless too as possible. Looking pretty nice here. I like how everything is looking. So yep. It's the before and after, before, after, before and after, before and after. The next thing I'm going to do, I just need to do a slight dodge and burn on this image and color grade the image to make the tones pop even more. But from my color correction, the tones of the model skin are actually popping, but we don't need to make them pop more and darken the background slightly, do image subject or background subject separation. So I'll come right here and select curves, but if I believe everyone knows how to make dodge and burn actions or dodge and burn curves. So I'll just come here and run my global dodge and burn action, and let's come up here and create a black and white right here. Perfect. So I'll pick my dodge tool. I'll select the dodge layer and pick my normal brush, and let's reduce the flow to like 2%. Let's start dodging the parts where we feel our model skin need to be enhanced. Yeah, I think this is okay. This is okay for me. Let me disable the black and white and see the before and after, before and after, before and after. That's okay for me. I don't need to burn the image. So I'll select shift, select the topmost group and select the shift and select the background, and then put all this, merge all this together, right? And then Control J once, and then select subject. So after you select subject, just go ahead and Control J to create a copy of the subject alone, then convert this to smart object. And then come right here and select camera raw filter. Okay, and then zoom in slightly, and let's work on the colors slightly. You can see how much texture we are remained with on the model skin, but when you zoom out, you can see the skin is already smooth and looking nice. So that's the best way you can retouch your images, full body images in Photoshop. So let's reduce the opacity of this layer of this select, what is it called, camera raw filter. Sorry guys, I'm doing this as fast as possible. Camera raw filter. So the next thing, I'll just go ahead and select color lookup, and then select my color lookup cube, color lookup LUT, and you can see how much difference it makes on my image. But I only want this on the subject, so I'll just press Control and press on my selection, and just Control I to invert, and then Control I to invert again, because we only want this on the subject alone. And let me put all this in a group, and before and after, before color grading, after color grading. And then let me show you now the before we did frequency separation, before we did all the editing and everything, and after we are done with everything. There will be no much difference, because most of the work has been done on Lightroom. Most working on the skin, what we did here is only retouching the skin, and that's how many minutes? Let me see how many minutes we have used here. That's like 12 minutes to retouch a full body image. And if you are not explaining, you can retouch this as fast as possible. So guys, that's how I retouch my full body images in for my clients. And if you like this video, please share it, and you can always comment below what you think I should change, because as I said, I'm making all these videos because I'm working on my fluency, so many things I'm working on. So I just need to be as fluent and consistent as possible. So if you like this video, don't forget to share it to someone who might need to learn a trick here and there. And make sure you watch my previous video, because there's so much you need to learn from my previous video. See you in the next one.